it is your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today. We're zooming in and focusing in on a really great viewer experience that was relayed to us in the channel, and that was really just some sort of jaw-dropping experiences of disloyalty, both marital as well as financial, that he had experienced in a relationship with a female psychopath. And I want to go into a little bit more in depth for the viewers here, and to really kind of dive into understanding this really lack of moral judgment basis that you see in a psychopathic individual. Very poor judgment, very poor morality basis and choices that are emanating from them that you oftentimes seem to be swept up in a victim to if you are closely or intimately related with them, yet they are adept at concealing this aspect of their personality, which makes it really sort of a double whammy, or so confusing and hurtful that they know this really about themselves, yet they continue to deliberately and calculatedly hurt people, even on a grand and catastrophic life-changing level. And that is to really understand in the psychopathic individual the function of the prefrontal, the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, which is associated with moral judgment, risk-taking behavior, decision-making, and choices, especially as it relates to morality as well as fear. And the ventromedial prefrontal cortex is really what is sort of damaged. And we can see this in studies with people who have either damage or lesions in this area. Lesions are like when there is a disruption of the myelin sheath that surrounds the neurons, the neural cells that conduct and wire and fire. So the myelin is like a sheath that, creates like a skidway for the decisions to be made. So when lesions are developed in this area, the same results in very psychopathic or psychopathy behavior, and especially as it relates to the moral nature of decisions. And this plays an important role, this area of the brain that is disrupted in a psychopath, it plays an important role in regulating and inhibiting responses to emotions. And the ventromedial prefrontal cortex seems to be one of the it seems to use one's emotional reactions to model behavior and control emotional reactions in specific social situations, and especially as it allows one to learn from behaviors, but it also impacts social, emotional decision-making basis. So, for example, studies have been found in psychopathic individuals, or those who have lesions in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex. There's a very famous study which is basically called the trolley study. And if there were to be a trolley going with which, if it was going to run off the tracks and 5 people were to be killed, but if you as the control could do something to save the lives of 4 people and then lose the life of only 1, if there was a switch that you could switch to do that, most people would have the emotional, moral judgment to be able to do that. In other words, it's better to save 4 than lose 5 people. And then there was another situation hypothetically presented where if you could save the same 4 people, but then push, you would have to push an individual onto the tracks to save the life of 4. Most people emotionally could not do that. They would not morally be able to cause the loss of life to another in order to save 4. So you see a lot of people who would then inhibit their behavior. They would stop, they would not complete that task. Yet with the same test group with those who are psychopathic, or those who have lesions in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, these individuals do not have the same dilemma. They don't have that same emotional break, if you will. So what if I have to push them? They don't have that same gut-wrenching, oh my God, why I can't do that. So there's a real change up in the emotional regulation that is involved with the decision making. So as you can kind of see this from this trolley example, you can see where there's a lack of value, a lack of sort of life value or human value that comes at the hands of a psychopathic or sociopathic individual, especially when it relates to making poor judgment, poor decisions, poor choices, especially as it relates to their own involvement and how they might sacrifice the love of another to save especially their own self-interest. And the self-interest seems to be very heightened in those people who have damage or lesions, such as we see in the ventromedial prefrontal cortex, that the self-absorption seems to go way up when the prefrontal, this area of the brain, is damaged, or we see in psychopathic or those individuals who have lesions in this area. So it's really that sort of really double whammy that you see, and then oftentimes, is oftentimes consciously aware that these individuals know that they're able to get away with a lot and yet not feel remorse, guilt. So you can understand that there's nothing you could have done to really better teach them, be a better person for them, be more attentive, more loving, more caring. There's nothing you can do. It is just based at the hands of the physiology in that disordered individual. It's peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.